Okay.
So, Seven, is that
Yes.
who you want to be called?
Yeah, that's my name.
It's really good to see you. I've heard a lot about you.
Yes.
You've had a hard time,
Very.
but
Mm.
from the point of view of how things have been with you and what's happened, could you give a sort of a background behind the court cases and really your basic story? Essentially,
Okay.
just start from the beginning, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. So are we recording now?
We are in record.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you first of all for having me on at short notice, Miles. I really appreciate that. And yeah. So basically, my situation is it's a nightmare, for want of a better term. But I'll take you back to how what um, my current situation, how it all morphed to be what it is today. Basically, I have a brother that was amazing. He was somebody that is very, very special. I was very lucky, fortunate to have my eldest brother be so learned. He was a very learned person. Um, he studied etymology and he's very into life, the universe, systems, spiritual systems. And he was into someone called Isaac Asimov. He studied
Oh yeah.
Isaac, yes. And he was a big sci fi fan, actually. And he also was into Edgar Casey because he was very psychic. We were both very psychic. I still am. But anyway, my brother, being the giant that he was, had a major impact on my life. Um, I'm the seventh child, which is why I'm called Seven. And he was the one that kind of broke down the significance of being the seventh child on a spiritual level for me. And he died at the age of 30. And when he died, it had such an impact on my life, his passing, that I felt like, as a tribute to him, I wanted to do something that would immortalize who he was as a testament to his greatness, as a testament and also a tribute. Everybody that knew him knew that he was very, very special. Um, by the way, I'm in a coffee shop, so if you hear noises and everything, that's what it is.
That's okay. That's okay.
And if you can't hear me, I will repeat myself.
It's
That's
fine. It's
if it
just
gets
fine.
difficult. Okay, so yeah, my brother was special not just to me, but to everybody that knew him and that had encountered him. And so when he died suddenly at the age of 30, it had such a big impact on me. I'd never had somebody that close to me die before. So the magnitude was major. And so at the time, I had been in the entertainment industry. I'm a musician, I'm a guitarist actually. And I had actually sessions with a lot of people. I'm a self-taught musician. I taught myself to play guitar from the age of 5, and that's basically how I got into the entertainment industry. Um, People heard me play, and I got offered record deals and that kind of thing, and I never accepted them. But
Why did you feel you didn't need to accept them? Surely that's a good
um,
idea. You're going to be famous. You're going to make money.
well, I never was actually interested in being famous. That was never a motivating factor for me. I came from a background where musicians had to have a certain amount of skill. It wasn't just because they looked a certain way or they knew somebody, it was because they could
Well,
really
I think
play.
that's a pretty good background. Having a good skill to play your music and your instrument.
Yeah. I mean, it was more about the music was the star, not the person, you know. And so I mean I came from a background of people like Chick Corea. I listened to Chick Corea, Weather Report, Herbie Hancock, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, you know, some Bowie, and you know, I'm born in the 70s. I'm born in the 60s, 65, but I grew up in the 70s, so music was very different for people like me.
But
It
also, the
wasn't,
70s was one
you
of the
know.
worst decades for plastic sort of manufactured stuff, all the glittery stuff that Radio 1 was playing,
Ah, right, okay.
you
I
know.
mean, from the point of view of the artist and the sort of creative side of the industry, we really appreciated albums and album covers. You know,
Yes.
there was a big thing about that at that time.
I'm a
You
former
know,
disc
vinyl.
jockey. I'm a former disc jockey, and I have
All right.
about 800
So,
albums, so I really I resonate with what you're saying.
all right, okay. So, like the album, the whole thing about the album, pulling out the sleeve and seeing the lyric sheets, and you know, those were a little piece of magic for me when I grew up. And so I, behind the scenes, studied music basically on my own. Um, I found a guitar that was left in my hallway, and I taught myself to play via the radio. Actually, I used to listen to the radio, and I just pick all the songs apart, and that's how I started playing. And by the time I got to my teens, I'd started this at the age of 5, and then by the time I got to my teens, I started being noticed, recognized, or people just started asking me if I wanted a record deal. And I didn't, because I was concerned about the industry. I was a mother, young mother at that time. I'm now a grandmother as well.
I don't
But at
believe
that
that.
time, my
I'm being sycophantic here, but I do not believe you're a grandmother. You look
I
fantastic.
am.
Well,
Thank you. I have 4 grandchildren. But yeah, I have 2 sons and 4
that's
grandchildren. And
wonderful. It's a wonderful,
thank you.
wonderful achievement.
So basically, my at that time, my children were still quite young, and so I was a bit concerned about the industry in terms of drugs and stuff like that. And so I didn't really want to expose them to that side of life. And I felt like if I had taken the record deals that I was offered at that time, that there would be a possibility that, you know, they would get exposed to that type of thing. So my thing was always to create my own empire, as it was, you know, work hard behind the scenes and start from and build for yourself, you know. So anyway, cutting a long story short, when my brother died in 1992, it was the beginning of a long journey for me. And because I was already in the industry, I had already done things like Top of the Pops, and I, you know, appeared on different shows and videos and stuff.
What sort of bands? Were you a guitarist on those, or did you play other instruments?
Usually, I always got people always ask me to play guitar because that's basically, even though at that time I
Oh, I think we've lost it.
usually
Ah, sorry, we had a very long pause there of about 5 seconds. If you want to go back onto the
can
guitar
you,
just to top the pops.
all right, yeah, okay, because I'm self-taught. I actually, you know, I wrote my own songs and I used to perform live. But I never actually, in terms of being a musician and a muso, as it were, I really wasn't sure if I was any good, if I was competent. So I became a session musician to really challenge myself, to play with other musicians to see whether or not I was competent. And that's how I became a session musician. I worked with Robert Palmer. Um, There's a girl band, Eternal. I did different things over and worked with some really cool people, and also got recognized in my own sort of peer group of people as being a musician. I was respected as a musician rather than just as a songwriter. I also arrange, I produce and stuff. But anyway, basically my whole thing was I didn't want to have a record deal. I wanted to be able to start from scratch and do it myself and put my own production team together, which would produce music, film, and all forms of creativity. And so when my brother died, I kind of got to work, specifically on the side of it that would address health issues, because my brother died of health complaint at the age of 30. He was, he hadn't even began his life and he died. So it was a labor of love. It was a labor of love. It was very sacred to me because my brother was very special to me. So that was my motivating factor. And I researched all the TV schedules for decades and decades and decades to see what had been created and what had been produced, to see if it was anything in line of like what I was doing. I went to hospitals and I spoke to doctors, and I also looked after a stroke and cancer patient for quite a while. And to determine, really, my interest was to determine demographically what would resonate with the ordinary person who was stuck at home every day. So fast forward, with the birth of the internet, it kind of opened my mind in terms of what was possible, and being able to reach a larger demographic of people in a way that would become more interactive. Because my mind was that, using the things that I do to stay healthy, young, youthful, vibrant, I felt like I would, if I put the things that I do, it would help other people. That was kind of the motivating factor. Does that make sense? Can you still hear me?
Yes, no worries.
Okay, because people say I look very young for my age.
You look amazingly young. You look amazing.
I'm 54.
You don't look a day. I don't want to be. Well, I don't. You look fantastic. You really do.
Yeah. Thank you.
You look a young girl.
Thank you.
A young woman.
Thank you.
Yeah, very young woman.
So when you see my show, You Are What You Eat, and 10 years younger, you'll know that they came from living embodiment of my work.
A little bit of a problem. Try not to wave your hands too much in shot. It gives a high bit rate surge, and the camera can freeze after that. By all means, move around, but fingers are fine detail, and if you shove them a lot, it's just I don't want to restrain you too much, but wave your hands and we lose everything for about 3 seconds.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So So as I was saying that if you look at my shows and you look at me, you can see that they are my work. Because 10 years younger.
Where would we see those?
They're all very mainstream now. Dancing with Stars, that's a very huge show. Strictly Come Dancing, that's the same franchise as Dancing with Stars. In different countries, they have different names for it. But the UK, because Come Dancing to try to disguise the fact that they'd stolen it. Okay, now the internet is frozen. Can you still hear me?
Yep, you're okay. You're fine. It is a bit bitty. If you're on the Wi-Fi, it'll be a bit like that.
Okay, but I was just saying, just to repeat, because this is a really important point. They changed the format name to Strictly Come Dancing in the UK to disguise the fact that it was stolen, which is a very common thing that they do. So basically they will say, oh, we had Come Dancing years ago, to say that it was theirs. But actually, it's what my work is completely different from what Come Dancing years ago. That was like ballroom dancing. But my concept was basically to train celebrities and to show people how easy it is to teach people how to dance, and to use dance as a kind of form of fitness, even, you know what I mean? So the whole concept was to teach celebrity so that it would inspire people at home to be able to dance as well. Because I was dancing at that time. And as I said, I was a musician and performer as well. So essentially what I did is I sort of encapsulated the things that I do and put it into a tangible format so that it would help the people at home to be inspired to become fit and healthy, you know, and that's the whole basis of it. So other shows you may know about are 10 Years Younger. That's a big format. Diet Doctors
What was
Live.
what channels were they on in the UK, or were they outside the UK?
Yeah, well, what happened was after I developed the concept and it was stolen, they chopped up the shows and sold them in 126 countries around the world. And it was the biggest broadcasting deals ever to be seen in the history of broadcasting. And even in terms of the economy, they said they hadn't seen that much kind of money come into the UK since the Industrial Revolution. That's how much money had flooded in. And with it was a whole deal of corruption. So I want to just rewind anyway. So I created this concept. And when I had put loads and loads of documents together, I'm a little bit pedantic, I'm a Virgo. And so attention to detail is kind of a big thing for me. So after I had created these documents, you know, I mean, anybody who's ever written a hit record will understand what I mean by saying I knew I had created something that was special, because it was done with a great deal of love from my brother. And I knew that I hit on something, because I get stopped all the time in the street and people are literally shocked when I tell them how old I am. People are they're shocked, and they always ask me, what do you do? What do you eat? What do you put on your skin? All these things. I get that literally every day. I get that. And so I knew that it was something that would resonate with a wide audience in terms of it being mainstream. Also, because I had gone to hospitals and I'd spoken to really sick people, I got an insight into what people would need, you know, and it was inspired, as I said, by my brother who died at the age of 30. I thought he was so young, he shouldn't have died in that way, you know, so young. So it was my way of trying to give something back, you know, in honor of my brother, you know. So I knew in my soul, I knew that I'd create something very special. So the next thing I did was I actually went to the Law Society to protect it. So I contacted the law.
Exactly what was involved with that? What sort of procedures did you need to do to ensure that your intellectual property was secure?
Well, what I did was I contacted, first of all, I applied for trademarks. And also because I had created a series of documents. They were beautifully bounded and sealed in plastic, really nicely done, because the printers that lived near me in the neighborhood that I live, I'm quite kind of known, you know, and this thing for a long time. So I had a lot of respect. Can you still hear me? Because it's got a sign
Yes,
on the
no
screen.
worries. No worries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically I had a lot of people that were rooting for me in the post office because I was copywriting my packages and stuff. And so I contacted the Law Society and I said I needed a lawyer. because I knew that I was onto something. So I wanted to protect the rights, my rights, to be able to license my work, etc. So based on demographics, based on, sorry, jurisdiction, they asked me to go to look to, they gave me the name of Russell's. They said, you need to go, based on my address, they gave me the name of Russell's Media Law Firm, which are in Regent Street. So I made an appointment and I went to see somebody called Christopher Gossage, who at the time was he was a clerk working for Russell's. Now, we're talking in 2003. It was June of 2003. And so at that time, we're talking 16 years ago, I looked really young. I mean, I look young now, but I looked ridiculously young. I was 38 years old, but you probably thought I was about 15 because I looked that young. It's mad. I got mad genes in my family. So the first thing I did was I got him to sign 2 non-disclosure agreements and confidentiality agreements, so that basically the conversations that I had were going to be kept secret between himself and myself. Signed these 2, and then I disclosed to him what I had developed. And when he saw them, how beautifully bound all my documents were, and he saw the concept, he was pacing the room with excitement. He said, "Did you do this?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh my God." And I said, "Do you know anybody that would be interested in licensing what I've done?" He goes, "Absolutely. We could go to Endemol. We could go to this company." He was just reeling off all these companies back to back, basically. And when I saw how excited he was behaving, I just thought to myself, whoa, I need to find a way to be able to protect or to record what is transpiring, because, I knew that people didn't always play by the rules in the entertainment industry. As I told you, I was already a session musician. So already knew that there was corruption and stuff like that. People's stuff got stolen, people got ripped off. And so this is why I took that particular path. So anyway, he was, as I said, he was like, saying we can go to Channel 4, we could go to ITV, we could go to this one, that one, to Endemol, all these different companies. So my thinking was, all right, after this meeting, I'm going to communicate with him via email. I'm not going to communicate with him verbally anymore, because I felt like I needed to record a record of everything that was being said.
Yeah, I know how you feel, because I'm doing the sort of same thing myself right now.
All right, okay.
I've got some ideas, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you communicate with any of these people, you need a paper trail to be able to establish the route of how things unfolded. So he wasn't aware that I was aware, but I was actually emailing him, and so he was saying, "Yeah, we're going to go to Endemol."
Do you think your youthful looks sort of felt that they could take advantage of you and walk over you as if you just were a wet piece of paper?
Absolutely. I also think the fact that I'm a melanated woman, a woman of color, that played into the equation as well. Because
to be perfectly blunt, women of color have been mega stars. Tina Turner's, the Dionne Warwick. I mean, have they faced the same problem in the industry? I mean, Dusty Springfield had that rich voice. Is this not a story that's fairly common in the music industry?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, look at what's happened to people like Whitney Houston. I mean,
exactly.
Jimi Hendrix.
She was treated really badly.
I mean, this is the reason why I didn't want to have a record deal, because I actually knew. I didn't know the extent of what I know now, because I had no idea. If I had any idea that I would be put through what I have been put through, I
I
would
mean,
never
I'm going to
have
mention
any.
something in terms of television. The
Yeah.
Gong Show. Are you aware
The
of the
what?
history? The Gong Show in America, big mega show in America in the 1970s. Basically,
Maybe.
you'd have a bunch of. It was like what is it? Britain's Got Talent or whatever, where you've got people come up and perform their acts, but the
Mm,
judges there's a big gong, a big like one of those huge Tibetan gongs,
mm.
and if they can't stand, if you're that bad,
They
they'll walk
bang
there and
the
they go and
gong.
bang the big
Yeah,
gong. Now that was a big
yeah, yeah.
show. There was a movie made about
Yes,
it.
I remember.
It was a heck of a film, and a lot of
Right.
from what I understand, and I may be corrected, a lot of CIA, a lot of programming, a lot of sort of MK Ultra stuff like that was allegedly involved with that sort of show.
Absolutely.
I mean,
And this is something.
is this a sort of environment that you basically found yourself in?
Well, exactly. I mean, I didn't. I mean, I had no idea, Miles, what programming programming is being used for. You know, in my purity and my love for my brother, I wanted to create something that would have the widest possible exposure so that it would help a large amount of people. However, when we understand what television is actually doing, really they're programming people and they're using people like me to steal the work from people like me so that they can actually do this mind control programming on
Exactly.
people. That's
Population
exactly
management.
what they're doing. Absolutely. And not only that, we have something which I didn't even understand, but we have something called, they're using Operation Mockingbird. So a lot of the
Okay, now
crimes.
explain that. Explain that in detail.
Okay, Operation Mockingbird is a military program which has been going since the 50s. All right. And it
A
is
what kind of
basically
program?
Operation Mockingbird.
Yeah, but what type of program was it? A limiting
It's a military
military.
program
Okay, sorry.
which is used in the information technology industries and also the entertainment industries. So we're talking about embedding information into television programs, films, magazines, so that predict events that are actually transpiring. So a perfect example of Operation Mockingbird is one of the first things that we saw was after my work was stolen. So I got headhunted after I created this stuff. I went to the lawyer. All of a sudden, I started getting calls to attend meetings. And obviously, they had set up a whole situation scenario in order to steal my documents. The documents were stolen. I went to a meeting on the
In what
11th.
way they were stolen? Were they physically stolen or copied or what?
Physically
Okay.
stolen, physically the hard copies. I got invited to go to attend a meeting on the 11th of November 2003 at NTL's facilities. Okay. Now, at the time, I wasn't aware that these facilities had just been built. Apparently, they had loaned money from Japanese investors to build these massive facilities in Felton. They were the
You're
biggest,
talking studios.
yes,
I
broadcasting
think they're
studios.
called Arkiva now. I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm sure they've changed their name.
Yeah.
Since the lawsuit, they've changed their name. Anyway, basically, and this was the biggest lawsuit of its kind. So I'm just giving you the pretext of how everything morphed. So these facilities were built, and the plan was, according to what we were told, the plan was that they were going to be able to. These facilities were specifically built in order to run all the sports productions. So we're talking about football, World Cup, the boxing, and this is why they built these facilities. But they lost the deal to Sky. Now, if you worked in Sky, you'll probably know the background or
Yeah,
can find out the
NTL was
background
a
of that.
big company. The cable network and all the whole thing collapsed.
Right, exactly. And so I walk in to this. So basically, they find out that I have this health and fitness concept, which is to revolutionize how we deal with dance, fitness in entertainment industry. And so I get headhunted and I get invited to this meeting. But the thing is that the person who actually invited me to the meeting was a man called Richard Hanna, who represented Clarion and NTL at the same time. So I sued both of those companies as well as all the people that were involved in the theft of my work. So he basically rings me like a nutter. He's ringing me like hardcore, obsessively calling me to attend a meeting with a woman called Helen Alexander. Now, Helen Alexander apparently used to work for the BBC, and she moved to Scottish media groups. Now, Scottish media groups, as you probably know, are part of the ITV groups. So you've got STV, ITV, Grampian Television, Granada Television. They're all part of a whole conglomerate, okay? And so this woman, Helen Alexander, was previously with the BBC, and she had a case with somebody called Chris Evans. I didn't know any of this until after the meeting.
Big name.
Okay, now
Yeah.
there was a big case with Chris Evans, who used to have something called Ginger Productions and TFI Friday, which was these were big productions at the time.
Very big show, great
big
show.
Now she was the woman who took it off him. It was this woman who took Chris Evans down. I didn't know any of this until afterwards, because at the meeting she was laughing about Chris Evans and she was laughing about having Ginger Productions, but I didn't know the background of any of these people.
Yeah, they did a breakfast show. They did a breakfast show on Sky. They sort of did a TV breakfast thing. So they did radio. They did a radio show on Virgin. I think it was Virgin.
Right, that's right. She took Virgin.
Then he moved to Radio 1.
Now you're talking. You know what, Miles? It actually helps.
Virgin, I think, I may be wrong. Virgin, I think, took over NTL.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because of all of this. Yeah. You know what, Miles? It really helps that you come from that industry, because there's a lot of things that I will say that when you cast your mind back, you remember the course of events. So you can actually confirm some of the things I'm saying. So anyway, I walk into this place. I had no idea any of this. And I'll send you some documentations. Everything that I'm saying to you is absolutely factual. And you'll see the documents that was the emails that were sent to me. So I got sent an email, and I think I was sent this email by accident. I didn't see the email until after the meeting. So I go to the lawyers in Brussels, and Christopher Gossage actually gives me a copyright statement, and he gives me contracts. I asked him to attend the meeting. He said, no, you don't need me to attend. All you need to do is make sure that they read the copyright statement to show that you are the authentic owner, and that your documents are signed for before the meeting. So this is what I did. I got it signed before we engaged in talking about my work at all. So anyway, this is when we got in there. Myself, I attended with Lisa Parnay. Lisa was a law graduate at the time, and I had put a production team made out of people that I knew. It was a small production team made out of lawyer, accountant, other dancers, and different people, in order to launch these productions myself. I had no interest of partnering with any of these companies, but what Richard Hanna was saying, he said, look, the industry is totally corrupt. You got to trust someone. The best thing you can do is trust us. You've got lawyers. What could possibly go wrong? And I thought, well, yeah, I do have lawyers. So what could possibly go wrong? Oh, my God.
Well,
if only I knew.
In a nutshell, I'm not sure how long we've got left on this 40 minutes, but in a nutshell, who were the good guys and who were the bad guys? And of course, I'm cautioning,
There are no
obviously.
good guys in this story apart from the people that have helped me to date. Um, Basically, what happened was they conspired together to steal my work. Before I knew it, my documents were stolen. After the meeting, I remember by the 5th of November, sorry, the 5th of December, seeing my work advertised on all the different networks. All billboards had versions of my work. So essentially what they did was chopped up my documents into different portions and they sold it around the world to 126 countries. And then what happened was that they put a whole operation around me to obstruct me from being able to do anything about it. So in absolute shock and horror, I went to the police and told them that my work was stolen. And before I knew it, I was getting death threats. I was being followed by helicopter, myself and my cousin. My cousin was one of my witnesses.
Now,
He was a key
helicopters are
witness.
expensive to run.
Yeah, I mean,
And they'd be very
the
expensive to run.
amount of money, I think it's £1,000 per day or per hour. I can't remember anyway. We looked into it because we were thinking this is a ridiculous amount of money to be wasting following people like me. But if you understand the magnitude of how, first of all, if you work out how many productions were produced in 126 countries, some of these productions have merchandising deals. You know, we're talking about spin-offs. I mean, there was a frenzy, there was a kind of a massive frenzy to sell my work. And big deals were on the table and they wanted me out of the way as quickly as possible. So before I knew it, my phones were tapped. I could hear clicking on my phone.
Yeah.
Then my line started to kind of...
It was interesting that when you were on the phone, there was some scratchy noises on it when you phoned me there a few minutes ago.
Sorry?
Well, it was interesting. BT had been working on my phone here for a long time, the 4 or 5 visits, because there's been lots of scratches. Some of those are made by the spiders who sort of inhabit the telephone exchanges. You can almost hear a sort of a noise as they communicate. But the other thing is just it's beyond crocodile clips stuck on a phone on a thing at the bottom of the street. It's a bit more sophisticated than that.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about telecommunications companies. I mean, it's a no-brainer, to be honest with you.
I used to build telephone exchanges. So
all right,
vague
okay.
idea.
So if we understand that we're dealing with media networks and telecommunication companies.
But they're operating in the esoteric domain. I mean, are you aware of all that?
Well,
outside
yeah,
3D
but for now I'm
space-time.
talking about the hardware side of things rather than the spiritual side of things, even though that definitely plays an element because we're talking about...
But you're aware of that?
Absolutely demonic, you know. So what transpired, one of the first things that we noticed after I started to see my work advertised on all the different channels, all of the people that Christopher Gossage was sort of spousing off about in the beginning, they all had got a piece of my work. And the plan was obviously to freeze me out as somebody that was insignificant. And horrified, you know, I fought back every step of the way. They signed contracts. So when I went to different lawyers, they said, listen, you know, you have no idea what you're up against. These people will go out of their way to destroy you. You know, these people are giants and they've got, you know, you have big deals on the table for your work and it's been sold in 126 countries. You know, do you understand what you're up against? And I said, but it's my work. They said, yeah, you've got evidence, but, you know, you're dealing with big people here. And I just thought, how dare they? How dare they? So because of my conviction that I have a right to what I create, I created something that was sacred to me. They don't have a right to just take what I've created
I mean,
and
they
build their
don't need
empire with
to.
it.
They don't need to. Why can't he just pay you a fair buck for a fair day's pay and shake hands? I mean, why are these people
Absolutely.
just like this? Why do they have to steal it like that?
Absolutely. And I think what it is, as I said to you yesterday on the phone, there is a culture of entitlement. It's a culture of, you're nothing. We own everything. We own the airwaves. We decide who lives or who dies. You know, Basically, we've decided that you get nothing, and so that's it. And so when somebody like me comes up and says, no, 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 I don't know who you think you are, and I don't care who you think you are. You have my work, you have my labor. This is something that I worked on that was sacred to me. Fine, you have a percentage. I don't have a problem with that. But to say that I get absolutely nothing for all my work and all my labor, my hands, I mean, I wrote so much that my hands, I had arthritis in my hands. I used to sit on the computer all night doing this thing. And to think that these people could just come along and just take it and make themselves wealthy, burp and fart, and actually think that they've got the right to just kick back and then bully people, the people that are the owners, to just go away. How dare you? How dare you? This is my feeling. So anyway, I soon got to realizing that they'd closed ranks on me. The industry had closed ranks. Lawyers had closed ranks on me. People were being instructed not to take my case. And so basically, it was a situation where I either fought them on my own, or I, you know, sucked it up. And I don't suck it up. Why should I suck it up? Why should anybody be put into that situation? I'm not a slave. But this is what it is. We're talking about a covert slave trade. It's a slave trade. Can you still hear me,
Yes. What
Mars?
sort of slave trade? What do you mean? A covert
Well,
slave trade?
it's a covert slave trade that is operating within the creative industries. It's very, very common that people who are writers, authors, people creating music will be set upon for their creativity. And that creativity will be turned into revenue, because the IP industry, this is why we have all these problems with what's it called? We had this big case with Facebook stealing people's data. And what was it? It was Analytica. What was that
Yes,
company
it was a
called?
particular company that was. I think that was a token gesture to what was going on, but that's only my
Yes.
opinion.
Right. So we have a situation where now the whole industry has turned its gazes and its emphasis on IP, because IP is the new gold. It is part of the weightless economy. With
Are you?
gold, you have to
What does IP stand for? I mean,
intellectual property.
intellectual property. Okay.
So intellectual property, the rights of intellectual property are bigger than anything that you could ever imagine. Because you're talking royalties, publishing rights, copyrights, merchandising rights, the rights that you have attached to each piece of intellectual property is off the charts. And we're talking about somebody's estate, intellectual property, like for instance, the song Happy Birthday, that one song, the person who created that song for the rest of their life and also generations beyond them will be owners of that particular estate. So we're talking of, I don't know, what is it, 80 years or something like that. Whoever owns the copyrights for that particular piece of music will get money for generations to come. Okay, so if we're talking about catalogs of lots of different TV shows or lots of music rights. This is why people like Prince, you know, he once wrote slave on the side of his face. Michael Jackson, all of these people end up in huge arguments about their intellectual copyright catalogs. And this is why they meet their demise, because the money that is involved turns people into literal predators.
Yeah,
They
steal
become
it,
monsters.
and if you can't steal it back or take it back,
But it's
you're
not even
toast.
just steal. It's basically they will kill you for your copyrights. That's what we're talking about. They would literally, I have over 75 police reports of all different attempts to literally murder me. One of my key witnesses, my cousin Ronnie Nicholas, and if you go onto my channel, you'll see a video with me and my cousin Ronnie Nicholas.
Okay, what is your
Um,
channel so people can see it?
if you go onto my YouTube channel, Solutionaries Media Network, that's SOUL, like soul music, Solutionaries. So SOULUTIONARIES, Solutionaries Media Network. If you go to that on YouTube,
That's a
you
great
look at
name.
my last. Thank you. It was born out of all this situation because, you know, we could sit there talking about the problem, the problem, the problem, the
Bearing in
problems.
mind that that these people or creatures harvest souls, but that's another
Right.
story.
Well, that's another way of looking at it. But from me, I see this as a divine opportunity to create great change in an industry that is creating a great deal of suffering. We know about Harvey Weinstein's, but there are 1,000 Harvey Weinsteins. He's just one of many,
It's just
many
the modus
predators.
operandi of the industry.
Yeah, it's basically an industry that has been doing this from time immemorial. It's built into the model, the business model, that if somebody is a creative person, you rip off the artist. It goes throughout the industry now. If you type in music industry, you have people that are warning people not to go into that industry anymore, to stay independent. You don't need these industries anymore. Unfortunately, they don't play fair. Not only do they not
Is that why
play
the
fair.
industry's in decline? I mean, the newspaper industry is notorious for averaging an average of an average, and the numbers of newspapers sold is just going down and down and down. It's just, and likewise, Hollywood keeps recycling old ideas and updating them and
Well, it
whatever.
steals ideas. Matrix is stolen from Sophia Stewart. You know that you had Sophia Stewart
Yeah,
on your show.
yeah,
That's the one of the biggest franchises that we've seen. It's literally changed the paradigms and opened people's consciousness in a way no other movie has. Huge movie,
yeah.
stolen.
And I
Black
see,
Panther,
it's that
stolen.
absolutely, yeah,
I mean, one case after another, you'll see all these big shows are all stolen. And if you look into what actually happens to the person it's stolen from, we are literally put into hell on earth. We're talking about house break-ins. You're talking about death threats. You're talking about being stalked. You're talking about, you know, my cousin has been poisoned. His body's laying in the mortuary, you know, and this is part of the reason why I'm doing these interviews, because we have a state of emergency. We have people that are literally murdering people for copyrights. Okay, why should I be put in a situation like this because I created something out of love for somebody that I love? Do you think it is fair that I spend the next 16 years of my life having to literally sleep on people's sofas, sleep on people's floors, because I cannot stay in my own house because people are trying to murder me for my copyrights? Is that right? I have none of the benefits of all of the work that I've done, all the money that I've created for this economy and all the world economies. I've not benefited from one iota of it. I've not received one penny, despite winning my court case. And I'm going to link my courtroom audios in the description box so that people can see. I have reports on what has happened to me over the last 16 years. There's the Farrell report, which documents what happened to me during 7/7 bombings, when I had to literally stay in hiding for 3 months of my life. And I had to be...
What's the story there? What's with the 7/7? Why does
Well,
that connect?
basically, during the time of 7/7 bombings was when, in July, was when my court case was scheduled to be heard. So basically, I issued proceedings on the 5th of August of 2004 in the Chancery Division of the High Courts. But it took until 2005 for my case to come round to be heard. And basically, there was a witch hunt to silence me, because big deals were on the table and people wanted me dead. So I ended up having to go into hiding. And at the time that I was in hiding, the bombings went off. And then I was smuggled to Notting Hill Gate police station by my cousin, who's now been poisoned, basically.
What sort of poison was used?
I can't tell you that, but
Okay.
I found him in March of this year. We actually made a video just before. So the video, if you look 2 videos back on my channel, Solutionaries Media Network on YouTube, you'll see a video of me and my cousin. And we appealed to the public for help, because we were literally being terrorized. And the last video that's on my channel is an appeal that I put out after my cousin has been poisoned. And there is some footage of me and my cousin on a staircase where you will see exactly what's gone on, and the horrors that we're actually been facing for a long time. Also, our family, 2 of our family members died in Grenfell Tower. And they used his image.
Story.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 16 years of horror. We have a report of what happened in 2005, just before the court case proceedings. And as I said, I sued 10 individuals and corporations, and I won probably the largest ever lawsuit of its kind. And the judge said it was the best case he'd ever seen brought on by a litigant in person. And because it was a life or death situation for me, but also I put all my anger and all my passion into putting this thing together, because the level of horror that I saw coming at me, I couldn't believe.
Actually, I've got an idea there. Ofcom are meant to be the broadcasting people keeping things legal. Have you not thought of appealing to Ofcom, because they're the people who govern the franchises. They're the people who issue the licenses for broadcasters to broadcast. And if they're actually broadcasting fraudulently using stolen works, that should be a breach of their license, and they should be taken off the air.
Absolutely. And I've actually put a petition together for my cousin, because currently my cousin's body's in. They're refusing to give me the death certificate. They're refusing to write down what actually happened to him. We're being treated like slaves that have no rights.
That's very suspicious.
Basically, I found him on the 14th of March. When I saw him, my cousin walked miles every day. He was fighting fit. He literally, because last year I found myself in a situation where my ex-husband told me of his plan to betray me. He said that he basically told me he was going to sell me out, or had sold me out. And he was playing these video clips, really blasting them in the house about poisoning us, And so basically, essentially what he was saying to me was that he joined forces with the people of my case in order to get money. I found out that he was also having affairs with my friends, and it was a nightmare. This was last year, and so I had to try to escape from that situation. So the previous video that I made with my cousin was while all that madness was kicking off in my life. So anyway, fast forward, he told me of the plan to poison us in December, I believe. It was December, and I escaped in January. I put out an appeal, and some people helped me to get out of where I was. And basically, fast forward, one night in March, I hadn't heard from my cousin for a little while. I tried to phone him because I escaped from my ex-partner. I actually changed my telephone number, so I had to get other people to phone my cousin, because if he doesn't recognize the number, he wouldn't pick up the phone. Cut a long story short, I got a friend to call my cousin in the middle of the night, AM hours. It was about 1:40 or something in the night, early hours of the morning of the 14th of March this year. And my cousin picked up the phone, and his voice was, "Hello, hi," very whispery, very faint. I said, "Ronnie, what's going on?" I felt very bad. His voice was really, really low. I was shocked. I thought he was pulling a prank at first. I didn't believe him. Anyway, I ran to St. Mary's Hospital in Paddington, and I asked them for an ambulance. And I asked if I could go with them, and they told me no, because he lived quite away from me. And basically, the ambulance was dispatched without me, and I had to wait for transport to get to him. By the time I arrived to his house, it was about 3 something in the morning AM. But basically, he didn't go with the ambulance. He crawled to the door and opened the door for me. When I saw him, he was covered in vomit, and he had white froth all around. He was foaming all around his mouth, and he told me, poisoning. I said, "Ronnie, what happened?" I was absolutely shocked. I couldn't believe it. And I said, "Ronnie, I can't carry you. I can't carry you. You're going to have to go with me to the ambulance." And so basically, I took his t-shirt, because he had a white t-shirt on which was covered in vomit. So I ran in the back room. I got another t-shirt, wiped his face because he had white foam. He had vomit. The vomit was stuck to his legs. It was all over him, all over the floor. It was horrific. Anyway, cut a long story short, he actually sat on the sofa. I went and got him some water, because his mouth was all dry and he had all this white foam all over him. And I gave him the water, and he sat down, and he just went quiet. And so I just thought quickly, like, call the ambulance again, because I called it before and he didn't get in it. So I called the ambulance, and they said to me, "Check if he's breathing." And I said, "I don't know," because it was dark. I couldn't see. It was 4 in the morning. I was there on my own. I was in shock. I was in trauma. They said, "Drag him onto the floor." I dragged him onto the floor. They talked me through CPR, and I did CPR on him. And then they said, "Run to the door and open the door to allow the ambulance to take over." And it was really hard, really, really, really dramatic. Anyway, eventually the police arrived, and I called a friend, and they told my friend that he died. So they killed him. You know, we had 75 police reports over the years. They tried to run us over. They tried all sorts of things to kill us. And my cousin, unfortunately, was killed on the 14th of March. Now, the police told me that it was foul play. I knew it was foul play, because this is a healthy man. You don't just start foaming at the mouth, you know. after being poisoned and keel over and die. You just don't, and they told me the procedure, which would be the coroner would be in touch with me and the police would be in touch with me. Nothing. Nobody got in contact with me. Not one person. I had to go from hospital to hospital.
So they haven't actually had a proper coroner's court or anything?
They put him in the coroner's court, but they've covered it up that he's murdered. I spoke to somebody from the Crown Prosecution Service. They said to me it's very common with black people that they would just put cancer or just write anything on a death certificate just to shut it up so that there's no inquiry, because we have over 75 police reports. We have the largest case of its kind, which has been covered up. And when you're dealing with people in the entertainment industry, you're talking about protection. These people are protected. This is why Weinstein, he never got. Everybody knew what Harvey Weinstein was about. He could abuse anybody and nobody would ever do anything about it.
So there's a different set of laws, different set of rules being played in that environment. But do you sense there's something changing there nowadays?
Well, I mean, we have Tyler Perry, who has built the biggest Hollywood studios ever to be built. Recently, about 3 weeks ago, he's launched these huge new facilities, or I don't know what you call them. Basically, bigger than Paramount, bigger than MGM, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, bigger than all of those studios put together, Hollywood put together. He's just launched the biggest of its kind. And one of the things that people that rolled out to see these new studios was that now we'll be paid, now we'll be credited. Everybody, all these famous people on the red carpet said now we'll be paid. So there is a culture, everybody knows there's a culture that enslaves creative people, abuses us, doesn't pay us, refuses to pay us, and treats us like slaves. If we ask to be credited and paid, you get what has been done to my cousin and they are trying to do to me. I've got people trying to murder me right now. 2 days ago, I had somebody come into my building, banging on my door, boom, 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 on my door. I've had to basically sleep on people's floors, sleep on people's sofas. I have no life. My life is literally in a bag. I keep myself together. I'm fighting to get my cousin buried. His body's left in the coroner's court. They're refusing to write what actually happened to him. They have a whole new version of events. The police force that was dealing with us in Charing Cross Police Station, they said that unit was disbanded a few weeks after my cousin's death, saying that it is totally corrupt. And if you watch the video on my channel, the last video I posted, I actually put up newspaper clippings. I'm not sure if I have one here. Sometimes, all right, there, let me show you. I can actually show it to you here, just so that you get an idea of what I'm talking about. So if you look at this, it says Charing Cross Police Station, right? Can you see that?
Yeah, it's clear, very clear.
All right. And this is the same unit on the front cover, corrupt cops, Met cops in inquiry. This is, if you look at the date,
yeah,
that's April 30th. So you're talking some days after my report, and basically it says bullying, racism, and that same unit on Charing Cross. I don't know. Let me just identify where it is on here. Then you will be able
what
to
happened
see
that
it.
they suddenly got taken out? Why did they suddenly get done?
Well, basically, the same police station, Charing Cross. It does say it somewhere here. Whoops! I just want to focus. You should see
Justin
Charing
Davenport
Cross.
crime. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so you can actually pull this up, and basically this. I'll show you a picture of my cousin as well. Just this is a picture of my cousin Ronnie, my beloved. He was my soulmate. My cousin, he protected me This is us the day we won the court case outside the courts, Royal Courts of Justice,
Yeah.
him and I. Okay. And yeah, basically that police station apparently is notorious for corruption, doctoring reports, racism, abuse, all kinds of stuff was going on in that place. And basically nobody has come to me about my cousin. And he's literally just left rotting in a mortuary. They were refusing to give me the death certificate, and they're refusing to record. The police are refusing to, they know who killed my cousin. They know who killed my cousin. We all know who
How do you
killed my
know that? Have you got any information, or is it safe to say that
It was
information?
obvious. It was obvious, basically, because he was being followed. We were being followed. They tried many times to murder us before. You know, our family, the night of Grenfell Tower, they had a helicopter outside my cousin's house, above my cousin's house. There's actually a report on exactly what happened and exactly what transpired with Grenfell Tower, where my aunt and my cousin was actually on the 16th floor. They basically were on the 16th floor, and they found them hugged together in a bath. They were burnt, fused together, hugging inside Grenfell Tower. And we have a report on what actually transpired. That was a mass murder of the worst kind you can ever think of. And let me say this to you, Miles, I want to say this to you and to your audience. We have a state of emergency. I'm going to repeat that. We have a state of emergency. We have situation where people can murder people in cold daylight, broad daylight. People are being murdered horrifically, and nobody is actually having to be made accountable. Nobody.
Is this mass gangs, gangland, different
Sorry?
groups? I mean, the east of London. Well, let me. The east of
Say
London
again.
had the Krays, the famous Kray twins, and that was involved with MK Ultra and all sorts of stuff like that. A lot of top actresses and things. I mean, that's going back a long time. But do you think there's something similar to that happening now?
Well, because I don't know about that particular scenario, I can't comment on that.
I think
But
we're
what I
dealing with
will tell you,
the 50s East End.
okay, but we're talking about mass genocide
Now,
of
what
people.
happened? What do you know happened at the Grenfell Tower? Because I've had an intelligence uh, person here who got information about a particular type of explosive that was cooking off because of after the fridge fire, and that was
Right.
that is something that if it isn't kept cold, it will cook off and then go on fire, and that was placed near the window, and that put the outside on things on. I mean, what
Well,
in your opinion, or what do you know happened there?
well, we have a report, which is if you go on to Everyday Concerned / Grenfell Tower crime report, because we are relatives of people that died inside the building. We were entitled to be part of the public inquiry. However, they've buried that report. Now, in the report, it's 80-page report, and it is conclusive. It exposes a lot of the things that transpired that show this was not an accident.
I mean,
This was
the gas pipes. You knew about that.
one of the
They
things
couldn't
that,
switch the gas off. It had been
well,
cemented
one
over.
of the things the residents said was that a gas pipe was on Grenfell Road, and it was run into the actual tower 2 weeks before. 2 days before, the residents were contacted and said to stay inside their buildings, stay inside their flats. 2 days before, they had people come to them. We know that 3 months before, there was the changing of the insurance to protect us for a skin, something like that. It's a Norwegian company. And they changed the insurers from the original insurance to this particular company in order to include human casualties to
That's a big one.
include human casualties. That was 3 months
How
before.
many actually died there, from what you know?
Well, the word on the ground from people that live in the neighborhood, if you go in that neighborhood, you'll see it's written all over the walls, 400 died in Grenfell Tower. That's factually what's written. We do know that one flat had 42 people. So if you understand that it's a building that housed 600 people, and one flat was found to have 42 people, so that's just one flat. So if you think about
All in
how
there at the
we
same
know that,
time?
yeah, there was 42 people huddled in one flat found. So obviously, if you calculate, that's just one flat, and then we're talking about all the other people that were in the different floors that were found. So we're talking, in excess of hundreds of people. It was hundreds of people that died, particularly according to the people on the ground. I mean, I encourage everybody to read our report. My cousin and I did a crime report, and my cousin's image was used in order by the Associated Press, which is the same people that are part of what they now term as Seven Gate. And
What's
it's
that? What's the
interesting.
Seven Gate?
Seven Gate is like Watergate, but it's basically around these stolen works and all the crimes that have manifested in relation to them, all the deaths, all the corruption
It'll
that
make
is
a good
involved.
movie.
Excellent movie.
You might want Clint
And,
Eastwood to play that one.
some people,
I'm playing. Yeah, this is really.
yeah, some people have said I'm like a British Erin Brockovich. So, yeah, yeah.
Well, you're
I
your
mean,
own person. You're your own person. You don't need anybody else's name on this. You're a
yeah,
brilliant
well,
individual. You're doing fantastic work.
thank you. I appreciate that, Miles. I really do appreciate that. Right now, I have a petition to get my cousin buried and also to flag this up because we're talking a state of emergency. People are being murdered by a crime ring, and they have become untouchable as far as the law is concerned. The law, the Metropolitan Police, they are not going to arrest anybody unless there is a public outcry. And, I'm calling for people to boycott those shows, to contact the BBC, tell them you know about Seven Gate, and you're horrified. You tell them you know
What about
about what they've
Ofcom?
done to me.
I keep talking Ofcom. They're the
Ofcom,
people really who's in charge.
Interpol, Trading Standards, Scotland Yard. I mean, all of these people should, unless the public makes noise that this is happening, we have two choices. We have the public says nothing and they're allowed to just go on a killing spree, kill whoever they want to kill,
What What about the people who would just simply say, "Well, you're just sour grapes. You just invented this out of your own imagination. You're just a money grabber. Why should these fine businessmen be treated like this?"
I
mean,
wish.
you're just a
I mean,
fantasist. You watch the TV and you think you make this, and
well, I mean, the thing is,
you're just
evidence
sour
doesn't
grapes.
lie.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to
Evidence. Yeah, and it's good that you do that. But the thing is, fortunately, from someone like me, I'm very pedantic and I'm very particular, and that's why I won my case. And there is a lot of evidence out there already. I have everything. I have all my police records.
I mean, this is actually important because, I mean, you can win your case, you can win the law, you can be legally correct. But if there ain't any action, if they don't respect the law, they just say, who cares?
They don't respect the law. I mean, as we saw, Judge Pumphrey, who ruled in my favor, who basically, there's two sides to this. There's a criminal side and there's a civil side. And, what should have happened was there should have been a criminal trial whereby they would have gone to prison. However, that didn't transpire and Judge Pumphrey is now dead. He's another person in the list of dead.
Now,
And there's
why
a
are
whole
you
list of
suggesting
people.
that he was murdered, bumped off?
I'm just speaking facts. I can't say what happened to him. All I can say is factually he's dead. That's what's on the record. And that's why they released my courtroom audios. It was released to me because Judge Pumphrey was dead. And all what happened was I won the case and then it was all doctored. Basically, the official court judgment was doctored and it was made to look. I had 14 witnesses, and actually, even before we got into court, they didn't turn up. So I had judgment by default straight away because they didn't show up. You've got 28 days to respond to a claim. They didn't, so I won judgment and default. So then it became an issue, was to decide how much money should have been paid to me because of the fact that the work had been sold in so many jurisdictions, in so many countries. So they had to disclose how much that they would pay me. But instead of doing that, their form of defense was to terrorize me. Now, what we understand from what happens with people like this that are in the industry, how they protect themselves, is that they use these mercenary companies, like Harvey Weinstein has done. They use these mercenary companies. So you're talking about, is it called Black Box or something like that? There's basically a company where they hire these people to go after the victim. And they basically terrorize the life of the victim. We're put under surveillance, we're stalked, we have our computers hacked. And not just that they steal from you and sell the work, they come after you for more. If they know that you are capable, if they know that you're an ideas, conceptual person, and you have interesting ideas, and because I make clothes, I'm a fashion orientated person as well, and you've got your finger on the pulse of what is trending or what have you. If they think you're that kind of person, or they discover you're that kind of person, your life is finished. They'll come after you and they literally hack everything you've got. And even when you try, even if you say to yourself, that work's stolen, let me move on, let me create something else and put that in the past. Let's take that scenario. They will steal the new things that you create as well. So anything that you create, they hack into your machine. I will show you factual proof that I have had over 280, was it 2,800 plus hackers on my machine at one given time. And these are all corrupt institutions who find people like me, who they consider is the golden goose, who's got good ideas, good tips, and they come after you to steal everything that you create. You're left in a state of poverty. So if they don't kill you physically, they kill your lifestyle. They steal all your money. They steal your life, your peace of mind. You get followed. You get sent death threats. Everything that you create from then onwards is also stolen. I can show you a whole wave of things that have been stolen from me since the initial theft. So you're talking, it's a covert slave trade. And the more, when you go to the police, they all know what's happening to you. But there's a whole industry.
Yeah, the police have only got a certain remit, and they're actually there not to protect you. They're there to protect those in power.
They're there to protect them.
Yeah.
And people
I
don't
think it's
realize
very important
that.
People realize that.
So that's so key, Miles, to say that. It's so key because then we understand why nobody's been arrested for Grenfell Tower. There's posters all over the place.
The police are there to protect property and whatever of the
They're there to protect the killers.
Yeah.
They're there to protect the killers, not the likes of me. Basically, we're on our own. If we do not get this information out, they will kill you and you end up like my cousin in a mortuary, or like my aunt and my cousin who were burnt alive in broad daylight. broad daylight. They literally genocided hundreds of people in broad daylight. Not one person has been made accountable. You tell me how that's possible, and you tell me if that's right.
Well,
In
it's
your
certainly
heart,
not right, but it's obviously possible, and they're doing it, and they don't give a damn.
they don't give a damn. Shall I tell you why they don't give a damn? Because unless every single person watching this video realizes the extent of what we're living in and actually takes their power back and says, no, I don't care what color those people were, because all kinds of people died in that tower, all right? Unless people recognize this is a critical state of emergency, and I'm telling you, we're in a state of emergency. You can blind your eyes to it, whether you like it or not. But when you're talking about people can literally plan, when you read the report, you read the Grenfell Tower report, you read the Farrell report, which goes into 7/7. You read all of these reports and you look at the facts and you think about that my cousin is lying in a mortuary after sounding the alarm and trying to protect, not just protect us, we're trying to protect other people out there. Because if the public allow this to continue, God knows where else they will strike, because they don't plan to stop it here. We're dealing with psychopaths. You're dealing with people that believe in their heart they can do anything to anyone, and nobody will ever do anything about it. This is what we've arrived at. That is a state of emergency. Do you not think so, Miles?
I think you've said it so well and so eloquently, but I think it's probably time to leave it for now.
Yes.
You've done a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Brave
Miles.
woman, spirited,
Thank
creative, and wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And
I
Seven,
really
with
do.
that,
Thank you.
we'll say goodbye for now.
Bye, Miles, and bye to everybody. Please, I'm going to put some links in this video. Give them to Miles to put them in. Please share it. Please upload it. Please report on it.
Yep.
We need you to look at this information and make reports about it. Otherwise, God knows what else they'll do
Download
next.
and share, I think the word is.
Share and expose. Much love to everybody. Thank you.
Blessings. Okay, we'll come out and record. I'm just glad we got through 1 hour 22 minutes for a 40-minute call.
Wow.